Thank you. We now go to Matt Rodder.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to speak in today's debate. I would like to start by paying tribute to the Grenfell families and survivors, and also to the fire service. And I should add, it's a pleasure to follow honourable members from across the House, although somewhat strange to be taking part from my sofa. Madam Deputy Speaker, I have to say I'm also pleased with the quality of today's debate and the many thoughtful contributions made from across the House. I, like other members on this side, welcome the bill. It is a step forward, although it is a modest step, and I would urge the government to go much, much further. I'd like, first of all, to reflect on the situation that affects many of the residents in the constituency I represent, particularly in central Reading, where there's a huge number of both larger blocks and indeed many, many much smaller ones, which rather like the block that was referred to by my old friend from Greater Manchester, are below the height threshold, but nevertheless there are serious concerns about their safety. Madam Deputy Speaker, I have to reflect and particularly draw on a letter, or an email rather, I should say, from a constituent, which I found extremely moving. This was from a young woman who'd been living for several months at this point in a position of great stress, living in a flat in the town centre which had dangerous cladding. She and her fellow residents in this block have now been living in this condition for nearly 3 years, and it is quite simply appalling that people are still having to put up with the enormous stress and worry which follows the Grenfell disaster. These are residents living across the country, and many of them are, as has been said earlier, quite simply trapped in their properties. They're unable to sell. They're living in properties with dangerous cladding, either ACM or many other types of dangerous cladding. We heard about the high-pressure laminate earlier. Another instance which is worth considering is the danger from wooden cladding. There was a dreadful case of fire in Barking a few months ago. We have both ACM, wooden cladding, which has been found to be dangerous, and other types of laminate in the Reading area. And indeed, there are something like 4 or 5 large blocks in my constituency, excuse me, all of which have been inspected by Parks Fire and Rescue and found to be not up to the required standards. The work is underway in one of those blocks. In many other cases, it's been delayed. And to make matters worse, as honourable members mentioned earlier, there's the related issue of smaller blocks which fall below the threshold, yet contain many, many dangerous fire safety issues, either dangerous cladding or other problems like substandard fire doors, which have been discovered recently, or a whole host of other things. And I believe that this is a very substantial problem affecting towns and cities across the whole country. We're only just beginning to discover it at the full extent of it, that is. We started with the awful fire at Grenfell and the similar fires which predated it, which should have been a warning to the government. There have been subsequent fires like the Barking one or the Cube one in Bolton, but there are many other dangers out there, and I'd like to draw the House's attention to some of them, particularly the issues with houses multiple occupation. We have a huge number of those in my constituency and in many other towns and cities. They're growing, numbers are growing, they're not very well regulated. Local authorities don't have the power to institute the sort of fire safety measures often residents would ideally want. And there's a growing market in unregulated illegal HMOs as well, often tucked away out of sight, which aren't being inspected. 2 of the points I'd like to make specifically to call for more action from the government one of them relates to this very point about inspection. There's a more general point about liability. But on the inspection point, I do hope the Minister will note what I've been mentioning about the scale of this in a town like Reading, which is a typical medium-sized urban area in Britain. Now, our local fire and rescue service estimates that they would require 30 additional officers to inspect the county of Berkshire, which has a population of about 800,000 people, the towns like Reading, Slough, Bracknell and other smaller towns, because of the number of these smaller but still possibly dangerous buildings. That requires substantial investment from government, and I do hope that the Minister will reflect on this and come up with a realistic plan for funding fire and rescue services so they can properly inspect the vast multitude of potentially dangerous buildings. Other examples, obviously, as mentioned earlier by one of the other members present, was the issue of educational buildings. There are whole series of other buildings that people may use at various times, as well as flats and houses in multiple occupation. All of these need to be inspected, and the resources at the moment are very limited. I should also add that it can take up to 2 years, possibly in some cases longer, depending on the grade of the person, for fire safety officers to be fully trained. The point very briefly is to just echo the wise comments made by the colleagues about the need for the owners of blocks, not just leaseholders, freeholders, to contribute towards these schemes. And I would like to reiterate that. So in summary, this is a step forward, much more easily done, and I would urge the government to look at the resources needed, particularly the resources needed for inspection, in addition to other matters too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.